A Wikileaks document in its global intelligence archives has generated much discussion for almost 4 years. This document, attributed to the State Department's Office of European and Eurasian Affairs, has the title Report on the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics' Destruction of a Clandestine United States Base on the Moon. However, no digital copy could be obtained as an electronic version was unavailable. 2 years after submitting the initial Freedom of Information Act request, the complete document has been formally disclosed. Following the first publication of this document in the Wikileaks database and its subsequent discovery by site users, considerable conjecture has arisen regarding its true significance, particularly in light of an actual project to detonate a nuclear bomb on the Moon. Nonetheless, when reviewing the paper, it becomes evident that it was merely a letter addressing a 1979 inquiry conducted by former House of Representatives member Samuel Devine. The correspondence from Douglas J. Bennett Jr., Undersecretary for Congressional Relations at the State Department, clarifies that the assertion regarding the Soviet Union's destruction of a clandestine United States lunar facility in 1977 is false. Devine had evidently received correspondence from an elector named Tade Quentin Arbogast, inquiring about what he referred to as the Battle of the Harvest Moon. The Freedom of Information Act request was initially sent to the State Department in 2019. Subsequently, it was advised that the document be archived at the National Archives and Records Administration, where it would most likely be preserved due to its historical context. The document suggests that the US government kept the existence of this base a closely guarded secret, fearing international backlash and potential violations of treaties, which prohibits the militarization of celestial bodies. According to the account, only a select group of military and intelligence personnel knew of the base's existence, and all activities were carried out under the guise of other space missions. However, the document reveals that the Soviet Union somehow became aware of the base. US intelligence operatives were initially unsure how the Soviets learned about the lunar installation, but evidence suggested that Soviet spies had infiltrated key American space agencies or private contractors involved in the construction of the base. The US government believed the Soviets might have been planning their own covert moon mission, leading to heightened tensions. Insiders have said that the destruction of the base, as detailed in the document, had significant implications for US-Soviet relations. Despite the violent nature of the incident, both governments chose to avoid public confrontation. The US administration feared that disclosing the attack would not only violate certain laws, but also provoke a public outcry about the militarization of space. The Soviet Union, on the other hand, likely wanted to avoid being accused of attacking a manned facility, a potential violation of international law that could lead to diplomatic isolation. The document suggests that high-level diplomatic talks between the US and Soviet Union took place in secret to de-escalate the situation. Both sides agreed to bury the incident, with the understanding that further military actions in space could lead to catastrophic consequences for both nations. As a result, the US never publicly acknowledged the existence of the lunar base, and the Soviet Union never admitted responsibility for its destruction. The declassified document revealing the destruction of a secret US lunar base by the Soviet Union not only redefines the history of the space race, but also provides a compelling reason for the creation of modern space-based military strategies. The covert assault on this lunar base, a US lunar installation, exposed the vulnerabilities that nations face in space and underscored the need for greater control, defense, and security in this new domain. Many insiders who have studied these documents have said that this incident, hidden for decades, stands as one of the foundational events that motivated the establishment of the United States Space Force, a branch of the military focused entirely on protecting American interests beyond Earth's atmosphere. The destruction of this base is a stark reminder of the strategic and military importance of space. During the Cold War, both the United States and the Soviet Union recognized space as the ultimate frontier, not just for exploration, but for potential military superiority. The covert lunar incident demonstrated how space could easily become the next theater of warfare, with devastating consequences if one nation were to gain a foothold in outer space or on celestial bodies like the Moon. The Soviet Union's decisive and destructive response to the US lunar base highlighted how vulnerable space installations are to attack. This lunar base's fall was a wake-up call for the US military and government, showcasing the limitations of current defense strategies when applied to space. Despite technological advancements and the success of NASA's public missions, the covert operation exposed the US's lack of preparedness for defending space assets, leaving vital installations open to sabotage. With this in mind, the lunar base incident set the stage for future generations of military strategists and policymakers to consider space not merely as a domain for exploration, but as an operational environment that needed its own dedicated defense force. This realization would only grow stronger in the decades to come, as both the technology for space warfare advanced and new players, such as China and private space companies, entered the scene, adding more complexity and competition to the space race. Although the US Space Force was officially established in December 2019, the roots of its formation can be traced back to concerns that emerged long before its public creation. The covert destruction of the secret military lunar base and the understanding that space could easily become a contested battleground played a significant part in shaping the direction of US military policy in space. The US Space Force was created as a response to the growing realization that space was no longer a peaceful domain for scientific exploration alone. Just as the lunar base incident showed, space assets like satellites, space stations, and potential moon bases could become prime targets for future conflicts. Space, much like air, land, and sea, was now seen as a domain that required protection, control, and defense. According to military analysts, the lessons learned from the Cold War, particularly the destruction of the secret US lunar base, emphasized the need for a dedicated military force capable of managing the complexities of space warfare. The US Space Force was designed to ensure that American assets in space, both civilian and military, are protected from any potential threats, whether from state actors like Russia or China, or from rogue actors and non-state entities. By creating a dedicated force, the US could streamline its space defense strategy, unifying satellite operations, missile defense, and space intelligence under one umbrella. The Space Force's primary responsibilities include developing systems to deter or defend against attacks in space, ensuring the protection of US satellites and space-based communication systems, and monitoring potential threats from other countries or entities that could disrupt US interests in space. These objectives take direct inspiration from the vulnerabilities that were exposed during the covert lunar base incident, where a lack of space-based defense allowed a foreign power to destroy a critical asset. The exploration of space, particularly the moon, has captivated human imagination for decades. The public narrative of human lunar exploration revolves primarily around NASA's Apollo program. Between 1969 and 1972, 6 Apollo missions successfully landed astronauts on the moon. These historic achievements are some of the most well-documented and celebrated in the history of space exploration. After the Apollo 17 mission in December 1972, the United States effectively ended its manned moon landings, citing high costs and shifting priorities in space exploration. However, this abrupt end to manned moon landings has always puzzled many observers. The immense investments in the Apollo program, both in terms of technology and human capital, made it hard to believe that NASA or the US government would simply abandon lunar exploration after achieving success. Moreover, the moon, with its potential scientific value and strategic importance, seemed too valuable to leave unexplored for decades to come. This discrepancy has led some to believe that not all moon missions were made public. In recent years, declassified documents and whistleblower testimony have suggested that secret moon missions may have occurred under the radar of the public and mainstream media. These documents point to a variety of covert activities, ranging from secret reconnaissance missions to the installation of classified equipment on the moon. Although many of these documents remain heavily redacted, they provide tantalizing glimpses into the possibility of undisclosed lunar missions. Additionally, records from the Defense Intelligence Agency and the Central Intelligence Agency have also hinted at secret reconnaissance activities on the moon. These activities were reportedly conducted to monitor potential Soviet advances in lunar exploration, particularly during the height of the space race. Some of these documents refer to unmanned lunar operations, but the possibility of manned missions remains an open question. Adding fuel to the fire are accounts from former NASA employees and military personnel who claim to have knowledge of secret moon missions. One such whistleblower, a former contractor at NASA, suggested that additional missions to the moon were undertaken under the guise of unmanned lunar operations. According to their testimony, some of these missions involved installing monitoring equipment and conducting experiments that were too sensitive to disclose publicly. They also hinted at the possibility that these missions were carried out by astronauts trained specifically for covert operations, separate from the well-known Apollo astronauts. Another source of speculation comes from Apollo astronauts themselves. In various interviews over the years, some astronauts have alluded to the presence of unexplained phenomena on the moon, as well as potential secret missions. For example, Apollo 14 astronaut Dr. Edgar Mitchell, a strong advocate for transparency in space exploration, often spoke cryptically about military involvement in space and the presence of classified information related to extraterrestrial life and unknown lunar activities. While these statements have not been confirmed as direct evidence of secret moon missions, they have added an element of mystery to the public's understanding of lunar exploration. One possibility is that secret moon missions were part of Cold War efforts to gain a strategic military advantage over the Soviet Union. The moon, located outside of Earth's immediate geopolitical reach, could serve as a platform for surveillance, missile detection, or even military installations. Keeping these missions secret would prevent the Soviet Union from developing countermeasures and maintain US dominance in space-related technologies. Another theory is that secret moon missions were undertaken for the purpose of mining or exploiting lunar resources. The moon contains valuable materials, including helium-3, which could be used for nuclear fusion, as well as rare minerals that are scarce on Earth. If the US government or private contractors had found a way to exploit these resources during the Cold War, it would have been advantageous to keep these activities classified to avoid geopolitical competition. Additionally, there is speculation that some secret missions might have been driven by scientific discoveries that were too sensitive to share with the public. Whistleblowers and conspiracy theorists alike have suggested that NASA or military agencies might have uncovered evidence of extraterrestrial activity or anomalous structures on the moon. In this scenario, secrecy would be necessary to avoid mass panic or maintain control over information related to potential extraterrestrial contact. While concrete evidence of secret moon missions has yet to emerge, the declassified documents, whistleblower accounts, and circumstantial evidence present a compelling case that not all lunar activity has been disclosed to the public. The idea of hidden missions raises important questions about transparency in space exploration, as well as the potential strategic and scientific motives behind classified lunar operations. As new space programs, both governmental and private, prepare to return to the moon in the coming decades, the truth about possible secret missions may eventually come to light. If covert lunar activities did occur, future missions could uncover physical evidence of these operations, such as abandoned bases, unexplained artifacts, or equipment left behind. Whether driven by military strategy, scientific discovery, or economic interests, the mystery of potential secret moon missions continues to captivate the imagination and deepen the intrigue surrounding humanity's relationship with the moon. In addition to the Apollo program and other publicly acknowledged space missions, there is increasing speculation that some lunar missions were classified and carried out without public disclosure.